Syria was once hailed as the cultural pearl of the Middle East. In the mid-20th century, it was a model of education, healthcare, and economic development. Damascus, one of the world's oldest capitals, had an advanced healthcare system and thriving commerce that attracted tourists and merchants from around the world. However, everything changed dramatically with the outbreak of the civil war in 2011. Today, many cities in Syria lie in ruins, thousands of families are displaced, and the land has been irrevocably scarred.
From prosperity to decline. What are the roots of the conflict? And how has the war impacted the lives of its people?
So, in this video, I'll be addressing these questions for you. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and like this video. In 2011, Syria experienced large-scale anti-government protests, influenced by the Arab Spring movement. Protesters demanded political reforms, an end to corruption, and greater freedom and democracy. However, the government responded to these peaceful demonstrations with harsh crackdowns, including arrests and the use of lethal force. This violent response intensified public dissatisfaction, leading more people to take to the streets, and protests quickly spread nationwide. As the situation escalated, some opposition groups began to arm themselves and clashed with government forces, leading to the outbreak of civil war. Multiple factors complicated the conflict, including sectarian divisions, regional power struggles, and international interventions. On November 27, 2024, Syrian rebel forces, led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham (HTS), launched a large-scale offensive called Deterrence of Aggression, targeting pro-government forces in Aleppo province. Within the first 10 hours of the offensive, opposition forces captured over 20 villages and towns and besieged the pro-government 46th Regiment military base. Subsequently, the opposition successfully took control of the 46th Regiment base, seizing a large cache of weapons and equipment. Meanwhile, Syrian government forces, supported by Russian airstrikes, attempted to launch a counterattack but made slow progress. The government forces focused their counterattacks on Aleppo's outskirts and southern Idlib province. The clashes resulted in significant civilian casualties, forcing thousands to flee their homes. The United Nations stated that the recent escalation in violence is the most
fleeing the fighting,
heading
to shelters in the Idlib province.
The direct involvement of Russia and Iran has further intensified
Footage
the
shows
internationalization of the conflict.
Russian.
Turkey continues to support rebel forces and has reinforced its military presence along the border. The United States expressed concern over the situation in Syria and called for an immediate ceasefire. As of December 4th, 2024, fighting in northwestern Syria continues, with neither side achieving a decisive victory. The United Nations has warned that continued escalation of violence could lead to an even worse humanitarian crisis in Syria. Rebel forces accused the government troops of indiscriminate bombing in civilian areas, resulting in numerous innocent casualties. In the past week, medical facilities and schools were repeatedly shelled, prompting strong condemnation from the United Nations. According to human rights organizations, clashes in late November alone have resulted in over 300 deaths, including more than 70 children. The fighting in northwestern Syria has severely disrupted local agricultural production and food supplies. With winter approaching, displaced families face harsher living conditions, including cold weather and a lack of heating facilities. International aid organizations are stepping up efforts to provide food, medical supplies, and winter clothing, but resources remain critically scarce. As the conflict continues, Syria's situation could deteriorate further, especially in the northwest,
to their own advantage
where a
in some way or
military
another.
stalemate may lead to
From
prolonged
revolution
violence.
to war zone to caliphate to pandemic.
International observers warn that if opposition forces and government troops fail to find a compromise, the civil war in Syria could last for years and even spill over into neighboring regions. Moreover, with extremist groups becoming active again, Syria's security situation could become more complicated, posing new threats to the international community. The escalating conflict has left over 4 million people in urgent need of aid, including displaced families, children, and the elderly, who desperately require food, medical care, and shelter. Although the international community has provided some aid, many regions' needs remain unmet due to limited resources. The United Nations and multiple international organizations have called for an immediate ceasefire and a negotiated solution. However, due to the complexity of competing interests, peace
continue
remains
to
a
repel
distant hope.
their advance.
Some
Handels
countries
al-Hut
have proposed
al-Jazeera.
increasing economic and humanitarian aid to Syria, but implementation plans are still under discussion. Syria's future depends on the wisdom and compromise of the conflicting parties, as well as the steadfast support of the international community. War can destroy cities, but it cannot destroy hope. Let us work together and pray for peace in Syria.